God, it's boring, isn't it? It's international flummery. It's tedious. It's tiresome. Nobody wants it. Who wants it? Do you want it, Podders? No, you don't. You want this. It's an Arsenal themed podcast. And with me are the Podcateers. How are you, Jay?
Yeah, all good, thanks. So good. Glad the temperatures dropped because I was dying, mate. I was absolutely dying. But yeah, all good, thanks.
Lauren, what's the temps over in Barcelona?
I mean, it's dropped as well, but it's still sticky. I have a little hand fan with me today. I'm moving up from the the leaf that I had a few weeks ago. So no, all good here as well. All good here as well. Can't complain.
Some sort of book or whatever. Right then, Podders. As I said, the international flummery is starving us of Premier League action, but the girls are bailing us out. They've had 2 games in the Champions League, one good, one not so good. But we'll get round to that. We are also going to cover the latest updates. There's quite a few of those. We'll review the men's performances in the Premier League, who shone, who didn't, and our performances so far. Guys, we'll talk about the injuries and all that sort of stuff, but all suspected injuries. Wasn't an injury in the end, was it? But we'll get to that in a minute, and we'll tell you who that's about. The Ballon d'Ors are looming. Saka and Odegaard are listed. Katie McCabe, Amanda Ilsted. I said that correctly, Lauren? They're all nominated. Now, my thing with the Ballon d'Ors, they produce this massive list and then they pick the same people they pick every year. Jay, what's it all about? It's rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been dominated, hasn't it, recently by Messi and Ronaldo. You know, they've pretty much monopolised the award, but it shows we're doing something right if we've got some nominations in there. So,
well, yeah, we won't win, but at least we're in there.
Not going to win. You probably go for Messi's probably going to win it, isn't he? But if you look at, Haaland should probably get it, but Messi will probably get it just because he's Messi, isn't he? He's had a good season. Don't get me wrong, had a good year, but if you're going to go on achievements and goals, you'd give it to Haaland.
Well, I think on the stats, I've got a creaky chair. You probably heard that. On the stats, Messi scored 20 goals and did 21 assists or something, but Haaland was like a goal machine. Lauren, if it was down to you, who would win out of those two? I mean,
I think
he just broke record after record. Not that I give it tops anyway, but he broke record after record and continues to do so.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is between those two players. I think the only thing that probably swings in Messi's favours is probably his last year he's going to win it. You know, it was his last year really in European football. Obviously, he didn't do very much with PSG. They won the league, but I mean, if you're with PSG, you're going to win that league anyway. But in terms of the World Cup, what he achieved with Argentina, I think that probably will give him the edge. And the other thing is age as well. Haaland's going to, at some point in his very long career, get his hands on that trophy, and I think it's probably Messi's last opportunity. So I think they're going to give it to him based on that. If it was up to me, I think personally, probably, yeah.
That's what makes me
I would
sick
imagine.
about them. I don't like them at all. I think it's kind of a waste of time, but never mind.
Yeah.
Let's get to the girls. Katie McCabe and Amanda Ilsted. Brilliant nominations, especially Katie McCabe, because we rate her very highly. In the World Cup, I think Amanda Ilsted finished second in the Golden Boot, didn't she?
Yeah, not bad for a centre back. But she offers an awful lot. Obviously, she's one of our summer signings, so we haven't seen that much of her apart from the few games over last week and the weekend. But everything that I've seen of her so far since she signed with Arsenal has been very promising. And I mean, it's great to get in a player of that caliber who's picking up Ballon d'Or nominations. Can't really complain about that. But obviously, I was very, very happy to see Katie McCabe get nominated. My girl, I love her so much. I always talk about her, but I can't help it. And I think the Ballon d'Or nomination.
I bet you had a secret cheer wherever you were. You go, yeah.
I was in the supermarket when I saw it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah. No, I was delighted. I was really happy. I think she deserved it. I think considering how far that team got last year, despite injuries and everything, she captained Ireland to the first World Cup. She got us our first goal there as well. She deserves it. She definitely deserves it. So really, really happy to see that. And obviously Odegaard and Saka as well. Proud as anything to see them on the list.
Wasn't it? No-brainer.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting as well. Someone said if Saliba hadn't been injured, he probably would have been on the list as well. And I think we could all probably agree that would have been the case, no?
Absolutely. Jay, I don't know how much money have you got on you, Jay? Have you seen the new Arsenal top?
The green one.
The green one with the blue sleeves with the green trim, and it's got a sort of wafty little collar with one button on it. 90
I like
quid.
it. Yeah, it's crazy price, but it's nice top. I'll probably end up getting it, but
Yeah, it's one of those ones you could go down the pub in, isn't it? Or just anywhere, really.
Yeah. We forgot to mention Ramsdale as well. I think he was nominated for the goalkeeper European version of the Ballon d'Or.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Aaron, sorry about that. It's just been a busy week. We can't write it all down.
I think it just shows. Sorry, mate. It just shows, doesn't it, that both the women's, obviously, that disappointment, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but the women's and the men's teams are doing so well now. So
yeah.
It's been a few years, hasn't it, since we've had anybody on either of those. Well, the male lists, especially, we haven't had anybody. So to have those three nominations, super.
Well, it's quite a mystery how Arsenal players have missed out in the past, isn't it? You'll agree with that, podcast family. How comes Thierry Henry didn't win it on a regular basis? Dennis Bergkamp, it's a real massive oversight. Anyway, Potters, we will push on. Now we've reinstated Aaron Ramsdale into the awards section. We will throw in a quiz question for you two and you lot out there. It's our highest viewing figures of this season. So thanks very much for that. Continue to support us by subscribing, liking, and doing whatever you want to do. View, especially, that's what we want. And next week, it is the 100th podcast, which is a massive milestone. They say that if you do a podcast and it lasts 6 episodes, you've done well. So we're cracking on there. Right, first up, join us in wishing former Arsenal owner or co-owner and vice chairman David Dein happy birthday. Jay, his impact on the club was substantial, wasn't it? I think sometimes, we talk about Wenger this, Wenger that, but he was key to that whole period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was key in Arsenal appointing Wenger because they were close friends from years before. Great story about David Dein. This is the kind of sort of vice chairman that he was, and this is how involved. It shows just how involved he was. Back in the 2002 World Cup, I think it was, when Brazil, it was the 2002 was the South Korea World Cup. Do you remember that, Tom?
Yeah.
Games were on at some stupid time in the morning, and Brazil were playing, and they had a good side back then. And this was when Gilberto was playing in midfield for Brazil, and Wenger just commented to David Dein, because Wenger was working over there back in those days in the summer. Wenger would commentate, wouldn't he? On the World Cup or whatever for various different channels. And David Dein was over in South Korea watching the games, and Wenger commented just how good a player Gilberto was and how much he'd like him as a player. And then basically David Dein behind the scenes went over to, I think he was playing for, and I might be wrong here, but I think Gilberto was at Atletico Mineiro in Brazil, and David Dein went over there, signed him, didn't tell Wenger. Wenger turned up for pre-season training, and Gilberto's getting changed in the changing room.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I mean, there's 1,000,001 stories, but yeah, great, a huge influence and a massive Arsenal man, and it was sad that that he had to leave. Because many people, pinpoint that moment when he left as one of the key reasons why we dropped off so much, and we fell behind, Man United and Chelsea at the time, and obviously City recently and Liverpool. So great guy. I haven't read his book yet. I really want to get hold of it, and it'd be a good read. And great bloke and real Arsenal man.
Well, we won't trouble you with that, Lauren, because you're far too young. And we won't trouble you with this next bit either. Peter Storey, former Arsenal defender, is 78. For those not old enough to remember Peter Storey, he was an iconic hard man. Definitely the ball was secondary. Let's just say that. Happy birthday to Lauren Koscielny, your shirt changer. We'll wish you happy birthday, even though that is unforgivable, really. And this month in 1998, Freddie Ljungberg joined Arsenal. He played 328 games until 2007 and scored 46 goals. He was a cracking player as well. I'll stay with you, Jay, just for that one, because Lauren, you were just a twinkle in your daddy's eye. Freddie Ljungberg, what a player.
Oh, a huge favourite of mine. Believe it or not, back in the day, I used to have hair. And when, I don't know if you, I know it's hard to believe, but
can you bring a picture and we'll actually put it up and we'll see you with hair.
But anyway, I had Freddie Ljungberg hair, and I don't know if you remember, but he had the red stripe down the middle. Yeah. And when he was scoring those goals, and when we, if you watch some of the old footage back in what season was it? It was the late sort of back end of '99, when Wenger's team was really, you had Bergkamp and the link between Bergkamp and Ljungberg. Ljungberg coming off the wing and Bergkamp just finding him with those through balls, and Ljungberg was so dangerous. And it was
almost telepathic, wasn't it?
I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I had to dye my hair the red stripe down the middle. But that was it was funny, but great player, and he was immense. Ljungberg, great winger. Cost, I think it was only a million or two from, I think it was Halmstad in Sweden, and on his debut came on to, if you remember, Tom, at Highbury when he lobbed Schmeichel. I think it was Schmeichel.
I think it was too. Yeah,
it's Man United. He came off the bench, lobbed the goalkeeper. So Big Daddy Longlegs just flew through the window. Yeah, a great player, and and again another real Arsenal man who, he came back and managed a team, didn't he? So. Proper Arsenal man.
Well, just while we were swapping stories, Wenger bought him whilst watching him on TV.
Right.
He watched him in an international and said, I've got to have that player. And then he was in an Arsenal shirt. So there you go, Potters. We're entertaining you with facts and fiction and all sorts. Right, let's get to this international flummery, which really annoys me. I will put my table out there and just say it just disrupts momentum. It pisses me off, and I don't need it. I'm not a massive England fan. I will, as I said to the guys before we came on, I will watch them in the later stages of competition, but up until that point, not really interested. But let's just say that Gabriel and Tomiyasu, I was interested in their performances. Gabriel was an absolute standout, and so was Mr. Tomiyasu. Lauren, did you see their performances?
Sorry, I saw clips of Tomiyasu. Looked incredible, looked absolutely fantastic, and I think that's kind of the player that we saw in his first season at the club. Obviously, injuries have hampered him I suppose last season as well, the latter end of that first season, and it looks like he's back in full fitness now. Hopefully, he can maintain that for the rest of the season, because I think that injury to Timber has set us back a little bit. But hopefully we can keep him fit, and I think he's shown how versatile he can be in that back four. Came in as a right back, but he's shown that he can do it. I think he's playing left centre back, if I'm not mistaken, for Japan, and he looked amazing. So I mean, Germany's a weird one, because I think we often think of them as being a powerhouse of international football, but they've been a bit off the mark. So I do wonder how flattering that scoreline was to Japan, 4-1. However, I think nothing can be taken away from his performance from the 30-second clips that I saw on Twitter. But very encouraging, and looking forward to having him hopefully fit for the rest of the season, because I think he's definitely a player that we're going to need to call on as the games roll in.
Well, Jay,
Gabriel, I didn't see any apart from the injury scare, which I'm sure we're going to get onto.
Absolute shame on you.
Jay, it's hard to keep an eye on them all. There's too many.
There is. You've got to have about 50 TVs in the front room. Jay, I heard that Gabriel was injured at one stage, and obviously, having seen Tomiyasu, I thought, well, it's not deadly news now, because he played so well, but it would have been a devastating loss. So we got two good performances. By the way, he's not injured, apparently. It was just an ice pack, precautionary, but they are two rock solid beasts of defenders, aren't they?
Tomiyasu, I think that left-sided central position for Japan, I think that's where he plays for them, by all accounts. I don't watch too much of Japan, but he's super versatile, and he looks like he's got a bit of confidence, doesn't he? And he's commanding, and there's going to be, we're going to be hitting a run of games now. The Champions League's back next week, I think it is. So there's going to be games for him to play in, and we're going to call on him, I think, even more so with Timber's injury. So, and Gabriel, I mean, we all know that he's a superb defender, powerhouse, and yeah, it was great to see him. I think he's back in training, isn't he? So I don't think the injury was too bad. So look, we've got some really good defenders, and it's good competition for places, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, the thing I like about Tomiyasu is when he came to the club, we all thought that there would be that little adjustment period of about a year and a half, because some people tend to struggle, but he was straight in, didn't care. Asked whether he could play in midfield or whatever. He said, I'll play wherever he wants me to play. That's the sort of player he is, isn't he? Dynamic, aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as I said, we saw him, he came in at that right back position and he kind of made that his own for the first season. And when he picked up that injury, I think was it Cedric went in to cover, and, the trap there was noticeable, shall we say. And then last season, I think his standout performance was in that left back position against Salah. And it just shows, I think the type of players that Arteta's bringing in now, apart from the two centre backs, we have White, Zinchenko, Timbers, they're very versatile players, and I think that shows the structure and the type of players that Arteta wants to bring in going forward, that they are able to adapt to, maybe not different formations, but be it, different competitions we need to shape up differently against the opposition, or if we do get hit with a run of injuries, we have the players who are of the quality that they're able to step in and adapt. And yeah, it's super exciting. And I think Jay said perfectly there. Yeah, his confidence is back, which is something that I think, after a run of injuries, likely is going to go, and you see a more natural centre back playing the right back role, and you're probably thinking, oh, why am I not getting back in the team? But no, he's a absolute through and through professional, and yeah, I think he's a really, really great player to have in our squad. And very happy. he is. Yeah.
If Haaland is a robot, then he's got to be our version, isn't he? Old Tomiyasu, he's an absolute beast. Jay, what was I going to say to you? I've got an email here. Let's wrap off that in a sec. It's going to be one of these things where nothing works tonight because the headphones went dead and I couldn't get anything out there, and then the mic. Jason gives us a little comment here. It's not really relevant, but we'll use it anyway. Has anyone noticed that Arsene Wenger's arms are the same length as his legs on the statue? Have you seen it? It's very disproportionate. It's absolutely massive. His arms are huge. We'll move on to you, Lauren, because you've got one. Lauren, name 3 top women's players. That's from Steph. 3 top women's players in the world, in your opinion.
In the world, okay. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's
difficult to be Arsenal,
because,
but you can
okay, that's
fit it all
interesting. I'm going to have to go with, I think if we're talking about Ballon d'Or, we mentioned Messi and Haaland. I suppose it's kind of a toss up in the men's. For me, it's Bon Mati's. It's an outright win for her. I think she's going to win it easily. She's been exceptional for Barcelona, for Spain as well in the World Cup. I think Alexia Putellas, again, that's another name I probably should mention. I think it's a bit difficult having, not seen her for a year in action with her ACL injury. That's another thing to consider. There's so many top quality players w'ho've been out with ACLs as well.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah, it's hard. So I think Bon Mati, of course, number 1. Top three, it's hard. I think I'm gonna have to go with Putellas because I think, she did it consistently for 2 years. She's the first woman to win back-to-back Ballon d'Ors, and unfortunately it was hampered with her ACL injury. I think it's a bit unfair not to give it to her as well. And then after that, Sam Kerr is a great player. I think last season she probably underperformed by her standards, which says a lot. She was exceptional. Tough one. Beth Mead as well. I mean, injury. Yeah. Viviana Miedema as well, again, WSL. But again, these are 3 players
girl.
that
I think she's absolutely the female
incredible
version of Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah.
Such a sweet sort of vision, brain, touch, everything about her. Jay, got one for you. Name a player you would have loved to have seen in an Arsenal shirt. One player. He's going to pass it down to you again, Lauren.
Realistically, or
yeah, well, yeah. just go for what you would have loved to have seen.
Oh, I mean, Zidane. Zinedine Zidane from back end of the 90s, early 2000s. He was unreal. He was one of my all-time favorite players.
Yeah.
Made the game look easy. Multiple Ballon d'Or winner. Really, really top player. I like the original Ronaldo. He was good.
The original Ronaldo, the original
Ronaldo. Yeah, I'd probably go with Zidane. If it's going to be one of dream signings, be him.
Yeah, top pick as well. Right, we were talking about the unnecessary football fixtures. I believe Scotland are playing, aren't they, tonight against England? Not really interested in it, but I hope Kieran gets a good bit of a run out. Let's get to our 25-man list of the squad for the Champions League. I sent you both a list of it. There's no major surprises apart from one of the defenders, Lino Souza. Completely out of the blue that because he hadn't been in the sort of on subs bench or anything like that. But what we do know, Podders, is he's an 18-year-old. He was born in Lisbon in Portugal. He is now a British citizen, an England international, technically very good, has pace, and not afraid to shoot or tackle. Now, could this be why Mikel, the long term, has let Kieran Tierney go, Jay?
I mean, it could be. I don't know much about the player himself.
I saw one of those show reels today. All his best bits jabbed into about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
forget the 90.
I think with Tierney, he's probably too good a player to not be involved on a regular basis, and he's as a person and as a player, he's come across, like he's not a troublemaker, Kieran Tierney, by any means of the word. But I think he would have gone to the manager and asked him if there was any chance of any game time, and Mikel was probably honest with him and said, "You're not the type of defender, or you're not the type of left-sided defender that we need." And obviously signing Timber just backed that up. And he's a good player, Tierney. He's a it's not like he's suddenly dropped off. It was only a year or two ago we were all, or a large portion of the fan base wanted him as captain, and now, last season he couldn't get a sniff, could he? So I think the new, it was surprised seeing that name on the team sheet, because I think is it Walters? I think he was the other one that has been more involved in matching squads, but I don't think he made that list, did he? I don't think he wasn't.
What did please me was Emil Smith Rowe was on there, so maybe he's going to come into the fore.
Yeah, and El Neni was in there as well. So his injury, he's made really good sort of progress with it. That really bad injury that he had, which was nice to see. But the rest, no. I mean, a young goalkeeper as well, Hilson. Don't really know too much about him, but it's a strong squad. It's a really, really strong squad. And they're going to need pretty much all of them. Out of that list, you're not going to see much of, I wouldn't have thought, Nelson or El Neni in the Champions League. They're going to be more backup, aren't they? But it's a really strong squad.
Well, James has sent us an email, so we'll crack on with that because you mentioned him, Jay. Reece Nelson deserves more time on the pitch, Lauren.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mentioned it last week as well. I checked the team sheet for England today just to see if Saka got a rest, and he did. But I think we could probably be doing a bit more. Yeah, it's about time. I think we could be doing a bit more to protect him as well. It's going to be a long season. We say it every week. He's so young. Let's not put him in the position that Jack Wilshere was in, where he's picking up small injuries, but they're long term. They're going to hinder his progression path. I'd love to see more Nelson. I think every time he's played, he's brought so much to the pitch. He has such a desire to play. He shows hunger. I don't know what more he can really do to get into the squad, and I think he showed his versatility. He can play on that right, he can play on the left. I think left we're a bit stacked in fairness for, there's a lot of players that could probably get in before him, but I think on that right hand side, I'm going to be completely honest and say I haven't been overly impressed with Saka this season so far. We're only 4 games in. I mean, he's still getting goals. He's still getting assists, but I think from the level that we are used to from him, he's not quite there. He's probably about a 7 or an 8 in terms of, I'd say, to be honest, probably a 7 in terms of what we were used to seeing him, maybe even less. I'd say maybe 6.5 to what we saw him playing last season. And I don't want to be too overly harsh on him because he's a great player. He's getting those goals, like I said. But, you know, there seems to be a real drive to create competition within the squad, within that starting 11. You know, why did we get Ryan from Brentford when we have Ramsdale there? What's that about when Saka's picked week in, week out? I don't really know what more Nelson needs to do to show that, you know, he deserves a start. And yeah, I think it's a bit unfair on him, to be honest. But as we said, there's a lot more games coming up. I'm sure he's going to get a run out in some competitions. But all I can say is what we've seen of him in the Premier League so far, he's done everything right. I can't think of a time he's, you know, put a foot out of line, and it's a bit unfair on him. But, you know, he had that contract extension this summer, and it obviously means that he's very much in Arteta's plans going forward. So yeah,
I think we've touched on something there with Lauren. Jack Wilshere, and to a degree, Lauren Koscielny, they were just played to death, weren't they? When they just came back from an injury, they put straight back in the team and got injured again. You have to protect these young players, don't you, Jay? You have to look after them. And Saka is a gem. He's a once in a generation find as a player. You cannot overuse him. We have done. That's the thing, is we are burning down to the wick. He's got. I mean, the good thing is he's a young guy, and he probably just wants to play all the time. But you have to protect these players.
You do, but you have to balance that with the effect that Saka has on the game. You know, he's one of our best players, if not the best player, who has, you know, the most goal contributions pretty much in any player in that team. So, you know, it's got to a point with Bukayo Saka where you can't drop him, because the players that coming in they're just not up to that level. And, you know, you just discussed Reiss Nelson. He, you know, on paper he's a perfect replacement. He's quick, he's direct, he knows where the goal is, but he's not on Saka's level, not by a long shot. And this is the problem. You've got Emil Smith-Rowe, who's also in a similar position to Nelson at the minute. He can't get on the pitch. We'll know what kind of player he is. Always looking to go forward, takes the ball on the half turn, good dribbler, knows where the goal is. Again, similar to Reiss Nelson, but he just can't get anywhere near the team, because these guys, when they come in, they've got to absolutely smash it. They have, you know, if Nelson, I mean, Lauren, you said it. We've got a lot of players on that left-hand side that are chomping at the bit to get in the team. So, and we haven't got as many on the right, but I think Saka is just so good, and we know that he's got another 2 or 3 gears to go this season. You know, we've seen him at a much higher level, so he can go through these gears, go into the higher gear. Reiss Nelson, he's just got to take his chance, and at the moment, I know it's hard because he's not getting many chances, but you know, when I don't know if we can drop Saka. I just don't. And I get that looking out for him, but you know, he's 22 now. You know, he's not 19. You know, he's a fully grown man, and he does draw tackles, and he's shown himself to be robust. But I mean, I don't know what the answer is, because at the moment, I'm not sure Reiss Nelson is the one. I mean, there's nobody at that level, and that's the worrying thing, I suppose. There was a few times last season, you know, against Forest, when Saka went off, Nelson came on and scored and did well. But in general, there's nobody that's even close to him, in my opinion. You know, and he's not. And I just think Arteta, you know, he's got his favourites, and he's shown in the past with certain players, which I'm sure we'll get onto. You know, Pepe. He's reluctant, you know, to, once he believes in his spine of the squad, these players aren't being moved unless they're injured or they get suspended. So it's tough for those guys, and you've got to feel for them, because they don't get as many chances as they want. But when they do, they've got to take it, and they've got to play at their highest possible level.
It's quite weird as well, Jay, because when the 2 guys were coming through, ESR and Saka, I thought it was ESR was going to be the superstar. Obviously, it's down to fate and luck and all that and opportunities. But I really did think it would be the other way around, because Saka looks a half decent player, but yes, I look like he had it all.
Smith Rowe, I'm worried a bit about his Arsenal future. I don't see, the longer it goes on, unless he, manages to put in a run of getting the team somehow in that position where Kai Havertz is playing at the minute, because that's the only place I can really see him playing on the up, because he will get chances, but he's got to take them, because I think the club will also look at him as somebody that can generate quite a large transfer fee from. So I do, and I really like him. I think we all do. We know what kind of player he is. He's a real talent, and he had a major part to play in England winning the under-21 tournament in the summer. But he's just he's in that predicament, isn't he, where he's got a lot of really top players around him, and we've just signed Kai Havertz, which I'm sure Smith Rowe, if you were to really press him on it, he probably thinks, Kai Havertz isn't too much better than me, so when am I going to get my chance? And I'm sure Mikel will give him it, but he's got to take it, hasn't he? And but I just wanted to say, I don't know what you guys think, but I just with each passing week that he doesn't get in a squad and he doesn't get any minutes, and I know it's a long season and I know it's just at the start, but obviously there was last year where he didn't get anything at all, really, that I can think of. I know he's had his injuries, but this season, especially after such a good summer for him, we just haven't seen him at all. And it was just I just worry that if a club comes in January and we're looking to generate some money, because we didn't generate anywhere near as much as we probably thought we were going to generate in sales this summer, I don't know whether the club will cash in on him. I don't know. Might be wrong, but
I think it would be an absolute travesty to sell him. When you get these young players come through, they are absolutely Arsenal through and through. And I would be personally disappointed if he did go, but I can see him going. I agree with you. Lauren, your opinion?
Yeah, I think one thing I will say, it's still very, very early on in the season. I think we'd look at players like Trossard as well, who, what more does he have to do to get more minutes? He scored an absolute cracker for Belgium today. I saw pop up on Twitter as well. He's an absolute machine, and I think a lot of people be scratching their heads going, why is he not getting more starts? And I think he did have the 45 minutes or however long it was in the Premier League this season. I think he was playing that number nine role, was it? And he it's not really his natural position. He didn't look the best that he has looked, but I think there's a lot of players that you could kind of, and look, actually one thing I want to say as well is, Jay, you made a perfect point there. No one is as good as Saka, and there is a massive drop in quality when we talk about resting players and that kind of thing. But what Reiss Nelson has done every time that he's been called upon is, I do feel as though he has taken those chances, and I really feel like he's proven, he said, right, I'm here, and this is why I want to be at Arsenal. And when it came up in the summer that, I think obviously his goal last season as well, probably it has him in the mind of a lot of Arsenal fans very, very favourably. But I think there's a lot of players that the case could be made. There's players starting ahead of them where, without picking on anyone in particular, Havertz, for example, is getting a look in when he doesn't really seem to be in the best form, where we have a bench full of players like Trossard, Smith Rowe as well off the back of England. These really, really great, Vieira as well, sorry, we haven't even mentioned him. Players who probably are thereabouts looking for a start, but we're only 4 games into the season. We're very, very, very early on in, and there's going to be a lot more games than we had last season as well. Hopefully we go further in the domestic cups and Champions League as well. So yeah, what I would say on that is, obviously we want to see the best team playing. We want to see the best players who are in form. But after 4 games, I think we probably shouldn't be worrying too much. And if it did come down to Smith Rowe leaving, which is probably the biggest worry at the moment, given that he didn't get much of a look in last season, this season again, I would be devastated. But I think he will have his time in the next coming weeks to shine. And hopefully he takes it.
Just want to put some balance on the Saka argument, Podders. Just want to say that obviously the service has to be spot on for Saka and also for Martinelli. Martinelli had a period last season where he dropped off a bit, but that was mainly because he had no one providing him with the perfect ball. We seemed to go infield rather than play in front of him, pass the ball to him. And Saka has his own vibe as well. He'd run at defenders and terrorise them. But if he's not getting the ball, much better when Ben White is on the right, obviously, because you've got that triangle of Ben White, Martin Odegaard, and Saka. And maybe we're just being a little bit too cautious saying it. He's burnt his fuse out. When actually, if it settles down now and you've got Ben White in that right back position, he might find his form again and look a different player. So I just thought I'd add that in. Right, Lauren, the Champions League for the women. Oh, where'd you start? It all looks peachy and rosy for Arsenal when they were facing Ljungberg. Do you want to run us through the side, Lauren? You got it in front of you?
Yeah, I have it here. Yeah, that game was last Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like a month ago.
It's so long ago, doesn't it? Yeah, so that was our first in the mini blitz, I suppose, of our, I think they call it the league qualification or some sort of qualification for the Champions League for the women's. So yeah, we were facing Swedish side Linköping. Sorry, we had Zinsberger in goal. Our back four of Moritz, Wuben Moy, Illerstedt, and McCabe was playing at left back. Midfield then of Valti. Kim Little was back from injury. Captain Kim Little was so happy to see her back. Manon was also playing there in that 10 role. And then we had two of our new summer signings. They were starting for us. So we had Lacasse on the right wing, Ford on the left, and then obviously Alessia Russo started in that number 10 role. And for the first time in a very long time, we had a very healthy looking bench, and I almost shed a tear when I saw it. There was more than 4 names on it, and I thought, oh my God,
last season we had 3 cleaners on it. It was that bad, wasn't it? Bloke who takes the bins out.
It was grim, but no, I thought it can only be good, but obviously not to give anything away, but it wasn't the happy ending that we all expected.
Well, as I say, it seemed like an exciting and strong side from that lineup, didn't it?
Yep.
Those new faces, the silky feet of Kim Little back. I mean, that was exciting. That was a Christmas present, wasn't it? That was an early one. I got a bit of feedback as well. Look, what's going on there? Beth Mead was on the bench. That was another high spot. Her fitness could be crucial if we're going to get any trophies this year. And as you say, we've added Russo. We expected to win this. I went for 3-0 on an Arsenal forum, and they did me proud. There was a delay with the match, wasn't there, because of a faulty fire alarm system or something. And the first half, which was a slightly drab affair, ended 0-0. But we had lots of chances, Lauren. We could have put this to bed really early, couldn't we?
Yeah, we did. We looked the better team, and I think, with all due respect, we had a much more quality team than they did going out. So it was a game that we were really expected to win. I do think 3-0 probably doesn't tell the full story, because that first half there was times where I thought, okay, we look a bit sloppy. Obviously, Kim Little missed her penalty, and I think it was in the 5th minute or so. And I always say, if I had to get someone to take a penalty on my life, it would be Kim Little, because she never misses. But it was proven wrong on this occasion. It looked a bit. I mean, look, it was our first game back, as I mentioned on the pod last weekend. It's 2 weeks after the World Cup final in Australia. Very little time to get back into the team, to get that momentum up. Trying to incorporate 3 new players that we signed over the summer. It looked a bit disjointed. We didn't really have our passing in place in that first half in particular. But as the game went on, we were able to, I think our quality prevailed, and a few sloppy mistakes or a few sloppy chances that we didn't really capitalize on. But in the end, we got the 3 goals, which were decent, I would say. But again, I think the 3-0 makes it seem like a much more comfortable affair than it was on the day.
Yeah, it was one of those where everything was too short, too long, too high. We really did sort of suffer a little bit, as we will get to, Podders, sadly, because you know what happened, but we're going to relive it. Not in too much detail, obviously. We don't like talking about losses. So run us by the old scorers. Caitlin Ford, 53. Kim Little was the creator, dinking the ball from the byline towards Ford, who was at the back post, and she just nodded down and in, which was nice. That was the green light for more goals. And we got those, didn't we, by Hurting and Blackstenius coming off the bench to seal the victory, which was a nice touch.
Indeed,
as you say, Lauren, it wasn't a perfect performance, but we got the job done. A bit like it's an Arsenal thing. We suffer. We have to drag it out a bit. We have to put a bit of drama into the event, and it was very much like that, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was no easy game. And I think, we really celebrated getting third place last season. We've got European football, we have it. And I don't think anyone really thought about how difficult it was going to be to face these two teams so close after the World Cup and, before we've got any pre-season under our belt, anything at all. And yeah, I think it really took its toll, unfortunately. But look, that game, the first game was I mean, I wouldn't say good, but it was a result that we needed to get through to the next round to play Paris FC or FC Paris. And yeah, it wasn't a good performance. It really wasn't. But at the end of the day, as long as we're winning, we
God,
can't
if
be
you
too
think that one was bad, let's get to the next one.
I don't want to.
I don't really want to touch on it at all. Want to edit this bit out. But before we move on to that match, what did you make of the debutantes, Amanda Ilsted, Alicia Russo, and Chloe Lacasse?
Yeah, no, I thought, look, it's
pick?
a tough game. Absolutely. It was a really tough game to come into, but I thought Lacasse was head over heels above everyone. She looked so composed on the ball. She was creating chances even when there was nothing, when there was no passes. She was the one who was making those runs. She looked so promising. Ilstedt as well, to be completely honest, from a defensive point of view, she didn't have much to do. The defense was a bit all over the place anyway. Don't think it was completely her fault, so I think she needs a bit more time. She did show, her aerial threat from a few set pieces. Not much came from that. And Russo, in this game, I thought she looked decent, but I felt, okay, she probably needs a bit more time to come into it. But from that game, I thought, from both games actually, I thought Lacasse looks like a really great signing, and she offered a lot on that right-hand side where Beth Mead normally plays. So it's going to be interesting when she's back from full fitness to that competition, which is healthy. Obviously we won't have as many games this season, but it's fine. But no, I thought she looked really, really good, and I was particularly impressed with her. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I hadn't seen much of her play, but she looked really great.
Right. Well, as I said to you this evening, I've only watched a sort of section of highlights of Arsenal versus Paris FC, and I've got a few notes here. We lacked urgency and ideas. We were fairly square. They pressed really high. There was a really dodgy first goal. And I was expecting, because they said it was over the line, to see some sort of technology. And there was none. It was just like ref went, yeah, that's a goal. And we all had
Did you see the venue though? The venue, it was like in a school somewhere. It was horrendous. But anyway, I think it was an AstroTurf pitch as well. It was fairly, you're thinking this is the Champions League. You're like,
that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, so the first goal, again, I thought that was in the 56th minute. Again, this was a drab affair in the first half. There was very little. I think we had a few chances. Frida Monum had a very good shot that was saved from their goalie, who had a great performance, I have to say. But yeah, we conceded 2 goals then. I think the first goal came in the 56th minute. And as you said, it barely looked over the line. The only reason I think that it was given was because Zinsberger, the goalkeeper, was actually behind the line when she attempted to save it. And I think had she been in front of the line, it probably wouldn't have been given. But her positioning was all over the place.
Of you, Lauren. I was like, you're joking me. Where's the technology?
Her positioning was all over the place, though. Oh no, there's none. It was very, very basic. It felt like a school game, Yeah, poor. I think VAR probably would have helped, but we didn't have any of that luxury, unfortunately. So yeah, we conceded a goal in the 56th minute, and then obviously within a minute, right from the restart, they got the ball back, and they absolutely sliced us open. And the same goal scorer, her name was Bordeaux. I'm not sure. I guess she's French. Yeah, she made an absolute fool of us. And we were 2-0 down within, less than 2 minutes. And that was when I really thought, oh my God, are we actually out of the Champions League here? Because it was a knockout tournament, and whoever wins this goes on to play the second seeded. And basically the way the Champions League works, I think I explained it last week, but there's only 16 teams overall, but 55 qualify. And then there's a series of knockout games up until the group stages, which is an outrageous number. And you consider there's not even a Europa League. I don't know. I think there's a lot that needs to be discussed and needs to be readjusted for this competition. But yeah, anyway, that was the thoughts going through my head in the 58 minute. I thought, oh God, we can't be out, surely not. But yeah.
But we did our usual, didn't we, Lauren? We do this on a regular basis. We do the
I
fight
loved
back,
it.
which is
Yeah.
really annoying, and we
Hmm.
did that fight back ever so well.
Yeah.
But it came to nothing in the end. It was, I suppose you could say, it was a Russo-inspired fight back because she was on her A game in this game.
She was, yeah. She came on for Blackstenius this game, and she really made her mark in this game. I thought she looked very hungry. I mean, she came to Arsenal to play Champions League football, and she wasn't giving up on that goal that easily. She did very well to win the ball back from a defender. I think it was probably one of their only defensive mistakes of the day. And she converted that chance very well. And, we were back in it. I think that was with 10 minutes to go. Jem Beattie came on. Big Jem Beattie, our centre back, was put up front because she's so tall, and obviously the game plan was just boot the ball up to Beattie and hope she gets a head on it. And in the 96th minute, wouldn't be like Arsenal to get important goals in the 96th minute. Katie McCabe had a beautiful pass up to her, and all she had to do was get her head on it and convert, and that's what she did to get the game to 2-2 and bring it into extra time.
But even the extra time was a little bit of a drab affair. Arsenal, for me, they were doing what United was doing the other week against the men. They were just passing it backwards, forwards, sideways. We showed no ambition. It was partly to do with their press. But anyway, we did the extra time and we got to penalties, and my heart was in my mouth, and rightly so. And two of the players that you would think would just boot that ball in the back of the net failed. Fill us in, Lauren.
Yeah, it was a tense penalty affair. I think, once it gets to penalties, really, it can go either way. But I think the pressure was probably off Paris at that stage, and I think it was all on Arsenal. Basically the whole season was on these penalties, and yeah, I honestly don't know who took the penalties for Paris, but for Arsenal, it was Little who converted, McCabe also who converted, and then we got to Manham, whose shot was saved.
Yep.
Yes, it was Manham. And then finally it was Russo, and she'd scored 2 in this game. She'd really dragged us from the depths of despair to keep us in the game. And unfortunately, her shot was saved. And, Paris, their penalty shootout was very, very good. Their keeper was, she saved 2 penalties from, as you said, 2 very good players who probably should be converting those chances if on any other day of the season, but it just wasn't meant to be. And yeah, unfortunately, no European football for the Arsenal women this season. I'm still trying to come to terms with it, but
can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Last season, we were all fire and brimstone with hardly any players. That's the galling thing. Got some brilliant players back, and we couldn't finish the job.
Exactly. No, I think it's really disappointing. It's absolutely, I don't think what anyone expected. I think, like I said, we got third last season, and it was all, we're in the Champions League now. Let's go. Let's we got semi-finals last season. Let's try push again. But as I said, I don't think it is. Look, it was a horrendous performance. It was really, really bad. But I don't think it lies solely on the players. I think, as I mentioned, the timing of these playoffs was horrendous. 2 weeks after the World Cup. Next week, again, the women go on international break. And then in October 1st, we're back with the league. Can someone explain to me how that's meant to how that's meant to work, how that's meant to benefit the players in any way, shape or form? I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And I think, obviously, look, if Arsenal had got through, I might have a different tone. But for me, having a major European competition with 16 teams, when we're trying to push the women's game on an international level, I think it's a bit scandalous, and I think it's a bit lazy to keep it in the same format without trying to adapt it to the demand that's there for the the constant growth of the game. I think it should be looked at. I think it wasn't only Arsenal that missed out. Juventus also, they were in the final, they were one of the 16 teams last season as well. And I think, the whole structure of how the women's game is played in terms of internationals and domestic, and Champions European football, it needs to be re-looked at and structured in a way that is manageable for the players, and also that is, it benefits everyone, because the way that it's being run now, it's so thoughtless, and Yeah, obviously, again,
It's
this
a
is
bit
very
amateurish,
biased.
isn't it? It's a
It's
bit hit
very,
and
isn't it?
miss. It's like
Yeah.
two drunk guys in the back of a pub, sort of going, "Oh, we'll get them to play this week, and
Mm.
then the week after, and then we'll give them a break for about 6 months and get them to play again." It's
Yeah.
like it's just bamboozling, but
Yeah,
very disappointing. Anyway, let's
absolutely.
get back to the Premier League. A little story that I've noticed in on some sort of link. Ivan Toney is linked to the club again. Jay, after he's finished his ban, should go in about January. I think that's when his ban finishes, doesn't it? I'd like to see him in an Arsenal shirt in particular.
Yeah, he's a good player. He scores goals, and yeah, he'd be a great addition. I'm just not sure whether Arteta or the club would want somebody with that much baggage, but from a playing point of view, yeah, he's decent. He's a good player, and he knows where the back of the net is. And we need, there's an argument that we need somebody who's, a natural goal scorer who can lead the line, and he's definitely that. So he'd be a good signing.
Yeah, I think he gives us something different. But would we, Lauren, have to accommodate him? No more. We've accommodated Mr. Havertz. But would we have to shift things around? I don't think we would have to, will we?
I don't think so. I think, when people look at the Arsenal team, the main criticism that they have is, a lack of, a goal scorer, like an out and out goal scorer, that striker. And I think, we obviously have Jesus, who we spoke about. His hold of play is exceptional, but he's not really an out and out number 9. And Kedia also, he's thereabouts, but he's not quite world class, or he's not quite best of the league yet. And I think Tony is definitely an interesting shout, but like Jay said, I don't think, with everything that's gone on, I don't think he's the positive story or the positive influence that Arteta wants to bring into a very young squad and wants to build around. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably more unlikely than likely it would happen.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of old school Arsenal thing, because if George Graham can't get a statue because of the old brown envelope business, I'm not sure Mr. Tony's going to arrive at Arsenal anytime soon. Right, we've only played 4 matches in the Premiership. Let's go to you, Jay. What can you see over those 4 matches? Obviously, it's misleading. The Manchester United result was spectacular for 20 minutes. But the other 3 were a bit patchy, although I thought we should have wrapped the Fulham game up.
I think it's encouraging that we've got to 10 points and we haven't really started yet. We've it's been a bit stuttery, hasn't it? I thought in patches in all the games, I think we've looked all right. We've looked okay. We've had some good passages of play in all 4 of the games, but also we looked a bit dodgy at the back, and decision making's not always been the best. And those partnerships that worked so well last season, and those passages of the pitch, you mentioned earlier Tom Saka and Ben White. White's been playing centre half and Partey's been out there, and it's been a bit disjointed. But look, we're on 10 points. We're only 2 points behind City. We've had a good win against Man United, and I think to win away at Palace is still a good result. I'm going to look at it from a positive point of view.
That was a tough one as well, wasn't it? It wasn't an easy sort of stroll in the park. It's always around down there.
Red card, wasn't there, to Tomiyasu? And I'm definitely choosing to look at it as we haven't really got going yet, and we're only 2 points. We're right up there with the early pace setters, and some real tricky games. Obviously we've got to deal with the Champions League, but we've got a strong squad, and I'm confident that we're going to come back and hit the ground running when we start against Everton again on Sunday. Is it? I think it is.
Yeah, we'll talk about no Paul Mack again. He's I think he was down at MK Dons. I saw something on Facebook. It gets about, doesn't it? Lauren, what was your favourite performance apart from the United game? Because we're all going to go for that, so we might as well try and fish out the other 3.
Okay, then you took the obvious choice.
Yeah, I'm
it
not
was
giving
probably
you the easy option. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I missed the Forest game. Then we played. Who was it? We played Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace was the game that stood out to me.
Yeah.
you know, like Arteta said, he loves wins like that, and it was a tough game to watch, but we grinded that result out, and you know, do we keep a clean sheet in that one? My question, that was 1-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's that? Palace 1-0.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something to celebrate as well, probably. No, that was probably the performance so far, and I thought, you know, yeah, that was the game we went down to 10 men as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that was probably the best performance that we've had. I think that's probably the most composed we've looked, the most organized we've looked. At other games, there's been patches where we've looked a bit complacent, a bit all over the place. Those connections, like you both said, aren't really there yet, like they were last season. But that game, it was a very well drilled and organized side that went out to, you know, a very tough away side, and we got those 3 points, and they're probably, you know, apart from United, they're probably the best 3 points that we've come away with so far this season, I think. And yeah, I think it was a pretty encouraging performance, but obviously the game after that left a little bit to be desired. But as we both said, or as we all said, only getting started, 4 games in, plenty more to to sit through and to bear through.
Suffer.
Suffer, yeah.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not, Potters. Jay, while we're looking at the 4 matches that have gone, who stood out for you as the most consistent player in the side? There's been some great performances and some not so great, but who stood out for you?
I think you've got to look. You know, you've got to be pleased with Declan Rice's input and his just slotted in there and really taking his opportunity, and seems to be really enjoying his football. And against United, he was immense. But, you know, against Palace, he was really good as well. So I've been really impressed with him. Saliba, obviously, I mean, the guy's an absolute Rolls Royce. You know, he just seems to effortlessly glide around the pitch. And he's another one that, I mean, maybe he's got another gear or 2 to go up. And fingers crossed we'll see that. I think Martinelli's done pretty well, you know, on that left-hand side, where, you know, on the other side, Saka's, and we've already said it, but he's maybe just slightly below. Look, Saka still scored that great goal against Forest, and he got an assist against United, but he's not in top. He's not, you know, he's not firing on all cylinders. But I think Martinelli's done his fair share to sort of compensate for that. So I think Ben White's looked pretty good, you know, and you know, there's obviously something gone on there with Southgate at the World Cup for him not to be picked since, because, you know, if you look at I mean, I think Maguire scored an own goal tonight, and he's just an absolute car crash, you know, and he's getting in and he's getting game time, and it's just ridiculous, really, that Ben White.
We changed sort of a train of thought at the moment. How is that? Why does Southgate keep picking these people who can't get in their own teams? It's misplaced loyalty, isn't it? Why is he doing that?
He trusts them. They're his favourites, and it doesn't make much sense. But I think Southgate's a limited coach. You know, I like the guy. You know, he comes across well, and he's definitely created a good culture within the England squad, where for many years that wasn't the case. You know, there was a lot of infighting and, you know, competitiveness, and, you know, I think a lot of those players just didn't like, there was club bias. You know, they didn't like each other. Where I think that's gone, and Southgate is definitely responsible for that. But I think as far as his coaching and managerial qualities go, I think he's quite limited, and this just shows it. You know, he's picking, you know, Jordan Henderson, Calvin Phillips, Maguire. When there are other players knocking about like Ben White, I think he's had a good start to the season, and he should be in the England squad. I'm the same as you though, Tom. I'm not the biggest England fan in the world. I hope they do well, obviously, but you know, I'm not a huge fan. So I think Ben White, he's done well. Obviously the captain, Ødegaard, he's relentless, he's consistent, his work rate's really good. And the last one I just wanted to mention, I think Eddie's done all right as well. I think he's scored a few goals and he's looked dangerous, and he's somebody that he seems to be super resilient, you know, because I think he can't be unaware of the fact that I think a lot of the fan base still question him as this, and I think we all do, you know, because he's not he's not Haaland, and he's not, he's not this monster of a striker that we all crave for. But if you actually look at his statistics, and he scores, and last season when Gabriel Jesus got injured, he came in and he did really well, and he scored goals, and he's done well this season in the 4 games we've seen. So I think those lads.
What about you, Lauren? Who stood out for you? Much the same, or?
Very much the same. I think, Jay mentioned all the people there, all the players who've put in very, very consistent performances. I've been really impressed with Tomiyasu as well. I think, haven't seen him come back from injury, and I think he's kind of allowed Martinelli to have a bit more support on that left-hand side as well. He's very good at linking up with him, which is really, really nice to see, because I think he missed that a bit when Zinchenko's playing there. He tends to come in and leaves him a bit isolated there. And Vieira as well. I want to say he's been an absolute impact sub. And I think if we talked about player, I think the question initially was who's impressed you. And I think those 2 players, they've come in and they've really shocked me, to be completely honest. Vieira more so than anything. And
Absolutely.
you're kind of sitting there going, can't wait to see him get a start. And I don't think any of us would have expected that this time last year. This time at the end of last season, even coming into preseason. But he's been an absolute monster since preseason, since the Community Shield game. And I think we kind of looked at him last season and said he's probably not quite up to the level of Premier League yet, but a bit of patience. He's obviously been working hard on it, and the hard work's paid off. I think he's really starting to make a mark on this team, and really starting to put up a good fight to get into the starting 11, which was incomprehensible a few months ago. But yeah, they're 2 players that really, really stand out to me, and obviously the names that Jay mentioned too.
Right, Jay. Obviously, we're going to Everton next, which I think will batter them. I think we're going to batter them chip shop style. It was the United game was the turning point for me. I think if we don't get our act in gear after that wicked performance, there's something wrong. But I think we will, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the same Everton side that we faced last year. I think there was the circumstances that surrounded that game with Dein just coming in, and first home game as manager. It was, I think it was just one of those games where they deserved to win, obviously, but we didn't turn up, but there was that new manager bounce thing and all of that rubbish. So that's obviously not there now. So I'm fully expecting us to go there. We should. We should go there and blow them away. There's no doubt that I think I said last week there were a few, against Sheffield United. I think they had a few little, I think that their new striker, what's his name?
Beto.
He looks quite a bit of a handful, and they had a few, passages against Sheffield United where they looked all right, but look, they've been rubbish this season, and we should absolutely blow them away. And I expect us to go there and win. I do. I don't expect Everton to cause us too many. And I think Arteta obviously will use last year as a major motivation. Remind them what happened last year. So you can imagine all the players. It wasn't that long ago. They all remember perfectly because it wasn't a great performance, and Everton did deserve to win that day. And I think it'll be different on Sunday.
They proper dismantled us. That was a typical Sean Dyche team, wasn't it? Gutsy, gauly, getting in there, stuck in, physical, and all the rest of it. It was all hammer and nails, wasn't it? Really. I'm going to stick with 4-1. Prediction, Jay, for you. Lauren's aching for a clean sheet.
I can't see them scoring. I don't think they're going to score. I think 2-0 Arsenal.
Lauren?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, from what I've seen of Everton this season, if we can see to them, there's a serious issue at the back. I think 3-0 maybe.
Paul, but there is.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say he's probably in hiding now. He doesn't want to come near any of us. But I think from what I've seen this season, we really can't be expecting anything less than a clean sheet and a very comfortable win. I know we're obviously away from home, but
I do think this Beto is going to be quite tasty, though, and he's going to get involved. He's quite a big lad, isn't he? As well, he's quite.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have Gabriel and Saliba, I don't think he's getting much of a sniff, to be honest.
He's in the old pocket, isn't he? Beto's going in the pocket. Well, let's give you a quiz question, Podders, because we got one for you, and we'll give it to the guys here. Lauren, it might be a bit before your time, but have a little ponder, have a little guess. Who has scored the most goals against Everton? Both players, two players we're talking about, had careers with Newcastle. So one is very likely to be guessed, and the other one maybe not so. Jay. Oh, he's going to pass it to you, Lauren. Look, he's looking out the window again. Dead sneaky. Yeah. Who scored the most goals against Everton? Two players, both had careers with Newcastle. I said it better that time.
So who scored the most goals for Arsenal against Everton?
No, it's players from a bygone age for two Newcastle players.
Alan Shearer?
Yeah. That's why I said Lauren would have a punt and have a guess.
So they both... Les Ferdinand?
Absolutely bang on.
Oh,
hey,
I would have got that one.
He's good this week. He suffered last week. He's not suffering. He's not playing, Podders. He's in for the riches. Right. What about which Arsenal legend scored 13 against Everton in 11 Premier League games? I don't think I've got the answer down here.
Got to be Thierry. Has to be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It rings a bell. It's not typed down, so it is Thierry Henry because I remember it. But what about if we go back even further before the Premier League even existed? Someone scored 5 goals in 5 games, with 4 of those coming in one match in a 4-2 win for Arsenal in 1991. You can have a guess at this as well.
Righty? Oh, come on.
He's proper on it. Yeah, he has, hasn't he? Yeah, I said it was guessable, but yeah, he's just too good. That's why he's on it. Podders, thanks very much. Keep viewing, keep subscribing, keep liking, because we love it. And we do this for you guys. And we have a bit of fun as well with friends. So my thanks to Jay, Stacey, have a good week.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Ta-ta. Is she there? Is she going to sleep?
She's there. Yeah, she's there. She's sitting down.
Watching a documentary on squirrels.
Listening like she always does.
Lauren, have a fantastic week in Barcelona, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks very much. See you next time.
Right, see you later, guys. 100th next time, Podders. Join us for that one.